Jean-Yves Marquette stood on the steps of the old house. Weak sunlight painted the stone front of the house. This was La Pierre Blanche, named after the light-coloured stones from the nearby hills. It was his now. He inherited it from his grandfather, a man he hardly knew. The house felt full of forgotten memories, its empty windows like blank eyes. Jean-Yves felt a chill, a feeling that secrets were waiting to be discovered. He pushed open the heavy oak door. Dust particles danced in the little bit of light that cut through the darkness. The air felt heavy, filled with the smell of decay and the passage of time. He walked through the rooms, each one showing how neglected it was. Spiderwebs covered the furniture like ghostly sheets. Jean-Yves realized this house wasn't just old, it was sleeping, holding its breath, guarding its secrets. Days turned into weeks as Jean-Yves settled into his unsettling inheritance. He began the big job of cleaning, each room showing a new piece of the past. It was in his grandfather's study, a room untouched by time, that he found something. The wall behind the big mahogany desk seemed to breathe, a small bump showing a hidden space. Curious, Jean-Yves ran his hand over the cold stone, looking for a latch, a button, anything. His fingers found it, a tiny little dip, cleverly hidden. He pressed. The wall made a noise, a low groan of old hinges, and swung open. A musty gust of air hit him like the breath of a tomb. He peeked into the darkness, heart beating fast against his ribs. A single flickering candle lit up a narrow hallway, leading down into the cold ground. The air got colder and heavier as Jean-Yves went down the stairs. The passage opened into a small, rectangular room. A single lantern, hanging from a rusty hook, made long, dancing shadows. In the centre of the room was a coffin. Not a wooden coffin, but one made of glass, shiny like a mirror. A feeling of dread, cold and tight, filled his stomach. He walked slowly, each step echoing in the quiet. Inside the coffin lay a young woman. Her skin was very pale, almost see-through, and she looked like she was sleeping peacefully. She wore a simple white dress, and her long dark hair spread around her head like a halo. But it was her face that made Jean-Yves gasp. It was the face of his sister, Marie, who had disappeared 15 years ago, the same playful sparkle in her eyes, the same beauty mark above her lip. But this Marie hadn't aged a bit, still young and beautiful. The police arrived, their faces serious as they looked over the scene. The glass coffin, airtight, was a puzzle. There was no sign of how it got there, no clue about who had sealed Marie inside. The medical examiner couldn't explain how her body was still preserved. It was like time had forgotten all about her. Quiet talks about impossible things like dark magic started spreading among the officers. Finding Marie's body upset something in their little village. The villagers, who had always gossiped about La Pierre Blanche and its strange people, now whispered about curses and old agreements. You could feel their fear like a fog hanging over the narrow streets. Jean-Yves, trying to understand the impossible truth, wondered if he was going crazy. Could this be real? Or was it, like some people whispered, a family curse, a craziness part of La Pierre Blanche itself? The investigation into Marie's disappearance, reopened after 15 years, brought up more questions than answers. Neighbours, once happy to offer sympathy, now looked away, their lips sealed with an ancient fear. Jean-Yves' own father, his face filled with a deep sadness, refused to talk about his sister, his silence as solid as a wall. Frustration bothered Jean-Yves. He felt like he was drowning, desperately searching for answers that disappeared like grains of sand. Why had Marie been hidden? Who had put her in that glass coffin, and why? The silence of his family, the fear throughout the village, only made the mystery bigger. It was as if La Pierre Blanche itself was holding its breath, its secrets hidden deep inside. Driven by grief and a need to know the truth, Jean-Yves dug into the history of La Pierre Blanche. He searched dusty archives, looking over faded documents and old parchments. He found a long line of marquettes, each touched by sadness, their lives a collection of strange disappearances and early deaths. He learned stories of a hidden room, closed off centuries ago to hold back something evil. Local stories said the room was a pathway to a world beyond our understanding, a place where time moved differently, where the line between life and death was blurry. The more he learned, the more sure he became that his family held a dark secret, a truth hidden under many lies. The villagers' fear, his father's silence, the stories about La Pierre Blanche, they all hinted at something bad, something old and evil that wouldn't stay hidden. One night, as Jean-Yves sat alone in his grandfather's study, he felt a presence. A cold spot settled over the room, and the air grew heavy with the scent of lavender and decay. He turned, his heart pounding in his chest, and saw her, a shimmering figure taking shape in the shadows. It was Marie, her eyes wide and pleading, her lips moving in a silent plea. She reached out to him, her hand passing through his own as if he were insubstantial, a ghost himself. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the apparition vanished. Jean-Yves was left trembling, his mind reeling. Was he losing his mind, haunted by grief and the weight of his family's secrets? Or had he glimpsed something more, a truth hidden just beyond the veil of reality? The line between the real and the imagined blurred, and Jean-Yves found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. Determined to end the silence, Jean-Yves confronted his father. He told his father about seeing Marie's ghost, the village rumors, and the scary stories he'd learned about their family's history. His father, his face showing years of sadness, finally gave in. He admitted that Marie had found a secret, forbidden knowledge passed down through generations of Marquettes, knowledge that threatened to destroy everything they knew. Marie, he revealed, had found the truth about the hidden room and the creature living inside. He said their family was responsible for guarding it, for keeping it trapped, no matter what. But Marie, young and hopeful, tried to free it, thinking it was a prisoner. She lost her life for her kindness, sacrificing herself to protect the world from a darkness she couldn't understand. The truth, when it finally came out, was scarier than anything Jean-Yves could have ever dreamed of. The responsibility of what he inherited, the weight of his family's history, felt like it was crushing him. He had more questions than answers. What exactly was trapped inside the hidden room? Why was his family chosen to guard it? And what would happen to him, the last of the Marquettes, now that he knew the truth? As Jean-Yves stared into the flickering flames of the fireplace, he felt a cold breeze. A whisper, quiet and spooky, seemed to come from the walls of La Pierre Blanche. He wasn't alone. The creature, he realized, knew about him, and was watching him from another world. His family's history of secrets had fallen apart, leaving him unprotected, the last protector against an ancient and mysterious evil. The future of La Pierre Blanche, and maybe even the world, depended on him. The question was he brave enough to face the darkness waiting for him, or